Hi, I'm Cindy, and this is Joy and Bella Chica, and we're here today at Stillpoint Studies to talk about healing emotional trauma using essential oils.
So we get a lot of questions from people about how to feel better with essential oils. One of the questions that I find most amazing is someone will call us up and they'll say, I'm really sad. What essential oil can I take? And we say, take how? And they're like, well, what essential oil can I take internally? And when you're working with the emotional body, you don't take oils internally. The whole magic of that is with the sense of smell and the olfaction.
So we've all had, times in our life feeling, anxiety or stress or grief from the loss of a loved one or a pet, or we feel hopelessness or fear, anxiety, depression. PTSD is a big one, okay? PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, it's not just only for, veterans of the war who have come back from war zones. A lot of times we're finding that a lot of people nowadays are dealing with some form of PTSD.
Yeah, that's referred to by some therapists as complex PTSD because there's not a strong reason for it. It's just childhood experiences compounded over and over and over again. And so then you have this kind of running type of anxiety or running type of sadness that's kind of like a computer virus. It just sort of like is between the lines.
And it runs around in our brains. That computer virus that Joy's talking about just is this low-level virus that runs and loops around in our brain over and over and over again.
And so then what happens is that everything is colored by that. So I could use myself. So my mom died 34 years ago. And so the night that she died, I remember the next morning when I was going to the wake, I remember looking in the mirror and I remember saying, I'm never going to be happy again. And so that was 34 years ago. I can't say that I've never been happy again, but I've never really been happy again. So some of you might say it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it really wasn't that. It's just my life fell apart when she left. And so trying to put the pieces back together with that void, I did the best that I could, but it just ended up just becoming this low level of loss and anxiety and a little bit of grief.
Joy struggles with that and has struggled with it for the past 34 years, this low level of a depression, right? Joy's the one who crawls up the stairs in the morning, doesn't want to get out of bed, and has a hard time starting the day.
I haven't wanted to get up out of bed. Really, it has to be about 30 years. Obviously I get up because I'm talking to you, but even if I have something happens in the night, to me, it's a chemical reaction, I think. So I'll go to bed, even if it's a great day. By the time I wake up in the morning, it's like, oh no. And I do. I crawl my ass out of bed and I come upstairs, and usually by the time I have a cup of coffee and stuff, things shift a little bit.
You want to talk about that blend that you made for your diffuser?
So a lot of times people write to us and they'll ask for a blend for sleeping. A lot of people have a lot of trouble sleeping. So you'll talk to someone and someone will say, I feel depressed. You'll say, why are you depressed? And they'll say, because I'm not sleeping. So there are some good oils that you would use to help yourself sleep. So if you're having trouble sleeping...
That's me, by the way.
You can use oils like rosewood, lavender, chamomile, it's high in monoterpenol called linalool. It's a central nervous system kind of depressant. And so most people, that you give them that blend and they go to sleep and they have the best sleep in the world. Me, you give me that blend and I wake up more depressed than ever. And I think it's because of the linalool content, because it's not necessarily that I need to have my anxiety lowered that much. And I think what happens is in the night with the linalool content and my central nervous system being depressed a little bit, it's almost like in sleeping, the trauma gets embedded more in my psyche.
We have a friend here in town who's a Harvard med student, and he actually explained to Joy what happens is for some people during sleep, during the REM cycle, certain emotions get triggered and it actually interferes with the sleep and causes, how does it make you feel? Even more hopeless?
Yeah, and even a little bit more depressed. So then I said, okay, this is kind of like this is kind of what you want to be aware of. And this is why there's not one recipe. This is not Fruit of the Loom, right? There's not one size fits all. It's not that one recipe fits everything. Everybody's individual, and everybody has different brain rhythms. They have different
brain chemistry.
They have different experiences. They have different relationships with things, different relationships with the day, different relationships with the night. So it's not a one size fits all type of thing, because this blend, that's why we don't really believe in blends, to be perfectly honest with you. We make some because they're in demand, and so we try and help people that way. But really, blends are so individual that they really need to be done on a case-by-case basis, because what's going to work for me might not work for you.
So what works for me for sleep definitely doesn't work for joy, and vice versa.
So then I decided to make a blend more like an energetic type of sleeping blend. So I made a blend, and I used laurel leaf and jasmine and rhododendron and some lavender, and that's the blend that I made. And I think I put a little bit of orange in it.
You put that in your diffuser?
Yeah, I put it in a diffuser. And so, and then you put the diffuser on, you go to sleep, and the diffuser shuts off sometime during the night. And I have to say, I woke up the next morning, and I think I felt better. I think I felt better before I remembered I shouldn't feel better. So that was an interesting thing.
Very interesting.
Because after I realized I felt better, that's not how I thought I should feel.
You want to talk a little bit about the situational piece and the chemistry?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different types of depression, and lots of people are on antidepressants that we see. I'm on antidepressants too, even though I was resistant to it. But there are different types of depression and anxiety. And so there's situational depression, and what that is that you're in a situation that is really kind of shitty, and it's really kind of oppressive and controlling, and so because of that you kind of feel depressed, or you're in a bad job, or it's a bad marriage, and so that'll cause a depression, and that's situational depression. Usually after the situation changes, then the depression will lift. And then there's chemical depression, and that's when the chemicals are off in the brain. And that's what some of the medications are for. So one of the medications I'm on is Paxil, and it's a SSRI, serotonin reuptake inhibitor. And when I first went on it, I was like, oh, I don't want to be on any medicine. And all it does, though, it just slows my brain down so I don't reuptake the serotonin. So it hangs around a little bit longer, and it gives me that little bit of a buffer not to be so reactionary. But essential oils can be the essential oils used in an inhaler. I want to show an inhaler.
These are the inhalers, some pretty colors we have here.
And so it can be the most powerful aid in helping you deal with anything emotional.
So olfaction and inhalation, the sense of smell and breathing and inhalation either through diffuser or an inhaler, is really one of the best ways to affect the chemistry and affect emotions.
So what happens with the brain is, the brain is very complex, but we'll just simplify it. So there are three parts to the brain, okay? We'll call one the reptile part, the mammal part, and then the neocortex. So the reptile part is red, and the mammal part is yellow, and the neocortex is green. So the thing is that the neocortex is where we reason and we respond and we problem solve. The red part, the reptile brain, and the mammal part, none of that goes on. Those two parts of the brain don't understand language. So if you're in red or yellow, trying to soothe yourself by saying everything is going to work, it's not going to help. I mean, it's just not going to help, because it's like you're out of control. It's a rock rolling downhill. And so the limbic system, which is a fight, flight part, that's in the yellow part. That's in the mammal brain. And so what happens is let's say something happens, and then you're looking at what happened. And so in a split second, your brain says, okay, what is this? Is this dangerous or not? And so the limbic system decides, and if they think it's danger, then the limbic system that part of the brain pulls up from the red part, and then you're in the red part, you're in the reptile brain. And if the brain doesn't view it as danger, it pulls down from the green part, and then you're able to reason and respond. And
Instead of react?
Instead of react. So that's the difference, right? Red and yellow are reaction, and green is responsive.
And it's always better if we can get to the place of being responsive instead of reactive. It's just a healthier place to be. Can't always be there, but it's the better place to be.
And this is where inhalers and essential oils in the sense of smell comes in, because it can move you out or move someone out of that red, yellow, like that, by having by the aroma, because the sense of smell is the only sense of the five senses that bypasses the thalamus, right? So the thalamus is this part of the brain that records everything, and so to me the thalamus is a really very bad concierge.
We live in a tourist town.
And it is. It's a very bad concierge because it remembers everything, and it gives you the little bit of information here and there that you really would care to forget. But the thalamus doesn't forget it. So let's take Bella Chica, right? So let's say when you were little, you got attacked by a little red dog, and now you come into a class here, and Bella's with me all the time. And so I open up the door and I say, "Hi, I'm Joy. This is Bella." If you were attacked by a little red dog, and if you kind of didn't work through that trauma, before you could even reason anything, your heart is going to be beating fast. You're going to, and what the thalamus is saying is fear, fear, fear.
Danger, danger.
Danger, danger, little red dog, little red dog, little red dog. And so before you could even say, this little red dog is a nice little red dog.
She's actually sleeping in Joy's shirt.
This is a little dog. It's not the same little dog that hurt me years ago. Before you could even reason that, the fight or flight part of the brain takes over and is trying to warn you and keep you safe, which is good, I guess. It's good. It wants to keep you safe.
If we were cavemen.
If we were cavemen. So when you smell, the aroma goes right up into the olfaction and kind of ends up, and it's interesting because where the olfaction center is, it's right where the neocortex is. It's right there, right near the part of the brain that helps elicit joy. And so between that, the aroma, and also the aromatic droplets that go into the nose, into the mucous membrane and start going around in the bloodstream, it's the most powerful way to use oils. Way more powerful than ingestion, way more powerful than topical, way more powerful than neat usage.
I mean, it is aromatherapy. All right, and we can't forget and bypass that inhalation, that sense of smell, olfaction, and how it really does affect the brain and our emotions. So that's why we have, some inhalers out here, a diffuser out here. But if you don't have any inhalers or you don't have a diffuser, I tell the story, just open up the bottle. If you have an essential oil, and we're going to go through some of the oils that we would use in certain emotional situations, just smell. You just simply have to smell that oil, or put a couple of drops on your hands.
Yeah, do that.
And just simply inhale through your hands. It doesn't have to be.
See, you'd put a couple of drops like this, and you go like this, and then you go like that. And see, my hands are okay. They're safe.
And we even work with a psychiatrist who uses Melissa essential oil with his patients, and he simply puts a few drops of Melissa on a cotton ball and puts it in a little baggie, and he has his patients inhale it that way. So it doesn't have to be a big production, it doesn't have to be a big expense to make a shift in our emotional and our energetic feelings.
He uses the Melissa for patients that disassociate and have schizophrenic episodes. And he finds that Melissa is one of the oils that works the best. And I think that the reason is because of the aldehyde in it. There's an aldehyde called citral, and it's the lemony part. And it's calming, and it's cooling, and it's sedating. And so that works for him. And other oils, those lemony oils, lemongrass, lemon myrtle, those are also very lemony aldehydes that you could use instead of Melissa, and it's much cheaper.
Because Melissa's quite pricey, even though it's his first choice to go to with his patients. But there are those substitutes, because everybody likes a substitution that's a little bit less expensive. So one of those would work great, because they're the lemony aldehydes.
And you really have to see what works for you, because if you smell something and you don't like it, you know, there's all this nonsense in the field, right? One of the nonsense is if you don't like an oil, you really need it. That's such a bunch of horse manure, because if you don't like an oil, then don't use it. You know, that's like saying, do you like liver? No. Well, then here, you have to have liver for dinner. So it doesn't work. It doesn't, well, one oil doesn't work for everybody. So tell the story. Well, why don't you tell the how you created the blend for me?
Okay, so we were living in Florida. This was probably almost 15 to 20 years ago. And Joy went to buy airline tickets. And she realized, I mean, we were supposed to be at a place, you know, you make your dates, you choose your dates. Well, Joy chose the wrong date. And to her, that evening, it was the end of the world.
It was.
So I said, I'll make a blend for you. So I created the Joy blend. Actually, we sell the Joy blend, but it's an old one and it's been around a long time. And it has neroli, orange, lang lang, and jasmine in it. And it helped Joy in that moment to realize that she could actually call the airline and switch the dates without it being the end of the world. But you know that there are times when you get into that part of the brain where you react and you just can't help yourself.
Yeah. So obviously I was in the red part of the brain, and there just was no, it was the last drop in the bucket, you know, it was just, that was it for me.
And it worked.
Yeah, and part of the reason I think it worked for me is because the blend that Cindy made, it's really quite lovely, but part of the reason is because it reminds me of sunshine. So it reminds me of my mother, actually, because we used to go to the beach in Florida, and it's copper tone and all of Hawaiian tropic, and it reminds me of a mixture of all of that. So to me, it's a really feel-good blend. So it's also important that when you're working with essential oils for emotional trauma, emotional support, is that you're using the blend that you're using an oil that brings good feeling.
And sometimes you can create a blend and it'll work, and then I find for myself, it stops working. And it's okay. It's like, then people say, oh no, what am I gonna do? Because it was working, and then it stopped working. Well, it's kind of like, Joy has this analogy she uses about shampoo.
Yeah, shampoo.
You know, she finds this really great shampoo and her hair looks great.
Right.
And it looks great, and she keeps using it, and then all of a sudden she wakes up and her hair doesn't look so great anymore. Time to switch shampoos. And it's okay, and it's just part of the our emotional chemistry, and whatever it is. Either we don't need that specific blend anymore, or we just need something different. So it's okay to switch blends just like you switch shampoos.
It is. It's okay to switch.
It's that one size fits all, and we get stuck sometimes in these little ruts that we put ourselves in, and then we get afraid that if the blend's not working, what am I gonna do? It's just time to create a new blend. No worries. There are lots of oils out there. And we're going to go through a list of some of the oils that we use personally for ourselves to help us through certain of these emotional traumas and situations that we've all been through.
And so if you're using something, or you find the oil for you, and then all of a sudden it stops working, there's no reason to feel hopeless or desperate like I would. Okay, there's no reason for that, because the analogy for that to me is, we used to live in Florida, and we went to what is that called? Where everybody has their tables.
Flea market.
Flea market. We went to a flea market, and there was this Native American shaman selling shaman stuff.
Animal totems.
So you put your hand over it and you pick your totem, and anyway, so I ended up with a little bear, and so you bore it in the pouch, and this bear was supposed to do all great things.
Magic.
Magic. Like, I asked the bear for lotto numbers, but that didn't exactly work. But anyway, so I wore the bear, and it was my totem. And every day I would get up, and I would take the bear out, and I would talk to the bear, and then I would put the bear back. And then one day, I got up, and I took the bear out, and its head fell off. So I had two choices. Either I could think I'm cursed for the rest of my life, or I could think, well, I'm done with the bear. I need a new bear. And so that's what you want to think about if your blend stops working. It's not a hopeless thing. There are other oils, other blends that can help you.
There are times in our life when we feel grief, for example. Bella Chica, this is actually Bella Chica number 2. The original Bella Chica was born with megaesophagus. Her esophagus was 5 times the size that it's supposed to be, and when she would eat, she needed to be held upright, otherwise her food would just come right back out. She would regurgitate her food. So that's how Joyce started to carry around Bella Chica in the shirt. She needed to be upright. So Bella Chica lived to be 5, right? And we had to go on a trip. We were speaking at a conference in Washington, and Bella Chica was still here in Arizona because she was having issues. So she was in the hospital and we had to leave her. Bella Chica, number 1, actually died while we were away. And we were filled with grief. Joy felt horrible because she needed to be with her Bella Chica and she wasn't there for her. And so we were in Washington and we said, what oil reminds you of Bella Chica? So we were with somebody else and this other person said, laurel leaf. I said, Melissa, and Joy said,
neroli.
So we created our grief blend, which is called
Bella's Blend.
Bella's Blend. Okay, so it's Melissa, neroli, and laurel leaf. Nobody would put those 3 oils together. They're not the most common blend, an aldehyde, an oxide, and an ester. But they go beautifully together, and it really helped with the grief, and it really helped heal our hearts while we were away.
It was interesting because we ended up choosing those oils, but not for the purposes that they do. We chose them because that's what Bella represented to each of us. And then when you look at the energetic and the emotional properties of those oils, you have Melissa, which is a premier oil for shock and trauma, and you have neroli, which is a premier oil for grief, depression, and you have laurel leaf, which is oil for protection and courage. So it was just interesting how those 3 came together to make that blend.
So let's go through some of the oils, other oils for grief. Because neroli, it's another one that's kind of pricey. So if you don't have neroli, what would you choose?
So if you don't have neroli, oh, there are tons. You could choose one of the citruses.
Citruses would be great.
Orange, mandarin.
Bergamot is highly antidepressive. It's great for depression.
I mean, you could also choose an oil that you really like.
Just a little aside, bergamot, you know, if you look at the fruit, it's got those crinkly on the outside, and it kind of resembles the brain. Well, that's one of the reasons why, you know, we talk about signatures and looking at the plant, because the bergamot fruit looks like a brain. Bergamot is great for the brain.
And bergamot is also good for the belly. And so the brain, that's another interesting thing, the brain looks just like the intestines. So bergamot is a good oil.
Right. So any of the citruses, if you don't have neroli, would be a great choice to use in an antidepressant blend.
Pick another.
What's another one? How about anxiety?
Anxiety. So anxiety is interesting because there are a couple of different types of anxiety. And there's anxiety because an event is coming, and there's anxiety just because you're anxious all the time. And those are 2 types. They're different anxieties, and you would work with them differently.
And choose different essential oils, correct?
Yeah. So the anxiety that is always the anxiety that's always kind of running, that just peaks every now and then, the oil that we would use would be a high ester oil. So geranium, lavender, helichrysum, pomarosa, those are the type of oils that we would use for that kind of anxiety.
And then there's rosewood, right?
Rosewood, marjoram.
Marjoram would be a great one.
And so let's say you're like, okay, I have anxiety, I'm going to pick one of those oils. And
Sweet marjoram, by the way.
Sweet marjoram. And if you don't like it, then use another one. See, there's no reason to use an oil that you don't like. The other kind of anxiety is the one that's more of an event-driven anxiety. And for that, I really would use more of a heavy-hitting type of oil. So I would probably use an oil that's in the ether family. So I'd look at nutmeg or palo santo or anise, something that can really help with a switch in the brain. Yeah.
Great. How about another one? What's another brain issue?
Well, there's PTSD, and that's interesting because that covers a whole range of subjects, I guess, subject matters. And so there are a couple different ways that we work with PTSD. And one is that you see what the event is, and then you try and find an essential oil that will help soothe that. Another way is that you see what the event is, and then you find the essential oil that reminds the person of that event, and then you use that. It's kind of like homeopathic aromatherapy. So we worked one time with someone the gentleman lost his wife. And he loved his wife, and his wife always wore lavender. And so every time he smelled lavender, he was filled with grief. And he didn't want to be filled with grief because lavender reminded him of his wife.
So it brought on like a PTSD, reminded him of the trauma?
Yeah. And so what we did is he was up for it though, and you either have to be up for it, or whoever you love that you're working with, has to be up for it. So we kind of reprogrammed his relationship to the aroma of lavender, so that when he smelled lavender, he remembered the joy from the marriage, not the grief from the marriage.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, that was neat.
Yeah.
And then the third way that you could work with any kind of emotional thing, but also with PTSD, is that if you can find an oil, like everything, like you walk outside, and for me, I walk outside and I smell something cooking, and to me, everything smells like Chinese food. So I say to Cindy, it smells like Chinese food.
See the food connection again.
It's
yes.
Chinese food, and she says, no, that's the hamburger place. And so, but that Chinese food aroma is a feel-good aroma for me. And so we have feel-good aromas, we have not so feel-good aromas. So if you can find an essential oil or an aroma that you have absolutely no relationship with, it's like an unmolded piece of clay. You could just mold it to whatever you need. And so you kind of can program yourself to have a certain association with that oil that is really kind of clean, no history with it.
No past memory, right?
No past memory, no connection to anything, good or bad.
A lot of times people find that with Fregonia.
Yes, the Fregonia.
Agonis fragrance, and they have no connection with that essential oil. It's brand new. They've never heard of it. They've never used it. And so what happens is in the brain, and this is all the brain stuff again, the brain then starts to form these new neural pathways, these new neural connections. Instead of being stuck in that limbic old wheel, it forms a new pathway, a new highway to go down.
And let's be clear, Fregonia doesn't form the new pathways for you, and Fregonia doesn't change your DNA for you. Fregonia just allows you to bring some balance to yourself and really heal yourself. And really, that's kind of what essential oils are all about. They are supposed to help you, give you the space so that you can heal yourself. You're not supposed to over-medicate yourself. You're not supposed to drink oils and water every day. You're not supposed to put oils on every day. You're not supposed to diffuse every second of the day. They're supposed to help you create balance in your life and to create an uplift so that you can balance yourself, that you can reach some kind of homeostasis.
So how about an oil for hopelessness?
The citruses are good for me for hopelessness.
Rhododendron.
Yeah, rhododendron is great. Yep, rhododendron is good for hopelessness.
Why don't you tell the rhododendron story, how it started?
Okay, so rhododendron is it's Rhododendron anthophagon. So rhododendron is a genus. People don't think of that. People just think of it as a flower from our garden. But rhododendron is a genus, anthophagon is a species, and that's a plant, little white dwarf plant from Nepal. And that's where rhododendron essential oil comes from. And rhododendron essential oil, on the physical level, it's good for respiratory issues and things like that. On the emotional level, rhododendron helps you get out of your own way, so that way you can kind of find the joy that a lot of us have lost. And so rhododendron for us was a big thing, because rhododendron is why we founded the business. So rhododendron has a special meaning to us.
It was actually the first essential oil that we were in the search for when we started Stillpoint Aromatics. So it has a very special significance. And it also might be an essential oil that you may not have previous experience with, kind of like what Joy was saying before. So that it's something new, helps open up the brain for these new possibilities to just move out of that emotional, whether it's hopelessness or anxiety or grief or depression. It might be a great oil to choose.
And so, you know, the way that you find out the oils that work for you are take all your oils out and smell them one at a time, and close your eyes and be with them. Smell them deeply and decide how it makes you feel. And then you'll know that that's the oil that you'll use if you feel that way. It's sort of like how Edward Bach discovered his flower essences. What he did is he conjured up a feeling within himself, and then he went out and touched different flowers, and then when he felt that feeling subside, he knew that that flower was good for this emotional issue. So,
what's a flower essence, Joy?
So flower essences, they're really quite powerful, and they're fantastic for the emotional trauma and emotional body. Flower essences have no aroma, okay? Flower essences are the imprint of the flower in water, and then either brandy or vinegar is added to it. So they have no smell. There's no distillation, there's nothing. It's a complete energetic imprint.
It's kind of confusing because they're called flower essences. So, and this is a flower essence, by the way. People open them up and they say, I don't smell anything. I don't smell jasmine or Melissa.
They say I smell brandy.
Well, most of the time they're in a base of brandy. We also do make some in a base of apple cider vinegar as well.
And they say I smell salad.
But the flower essences are really an energetic boost to help us get through these times of emotional trauma. They help just on an energetic level, where the essential oils help work on the brain. The flower essences can be added to blends with essential oils in it, or you can take them the way we do. Okay, and I just take a drop or 2 or 3 in my glass of water, and this is how Joy takes them.
And I take it under the tongue.
Either way is totally fine.
And so the whole theory behind the flower essence is that when you take the flower essence, you're using the life imprint of the plant or the tree or the part of the flower or tree, and it helps restore the electrical balance within your system.
So we have a whole line of flower essences here at Stillpoint, and the one that we have that Joy just took and that I put in my water is what we call STR, Stillpoint's Trauma Remedy.
And so using flower essences with essential oils for any kind of emotional trauma, even physical trauma, it's really quite helpful because it helps the body rebalance on the emotional, electrical pathway.
So recently, well, not so recently, I was sitting on the couch and we have two cats, and they started to fight. And I was the protective mama over the elderly cat, and they started to fight, and then all of a sudden they were climbing over my face and used my face and scratched me. First thing I did, one of the first things anyway, was reach for my essential oils, but I also went and reached for the trauma remedy, the STR, the Stillpoint Trauma Remedy, just to help me, because whenever you have one of those moments where you're kind of like in shock or trauma or whatever, it's great to help just soothe and calm and rebalance. That's what flower essences are great for.
Even though you still were crying.
Well, but it helps that whole balancing happen so that healing can happen and you can feel better, because we all want to just feel better, basically.
People that have used flower essences in the past, not necessarily ours, any flower essence, if a trauma happens, and if you could take that flower essence within the first 5 or 10 minutes, the healing of your body has already begun. So people that can take the flower essence within the first couple of minutes, they heal much faster.
On the physical and the emotional level. Just to keep in mind, essential oils can really help support when we're going through times of emotional trauma and emotional stress. But there are a lot of other ways that we can help support ourselves when we're going through times of emotional trauma and stress.
And if you look if you're on Facebook, and I'm on Facebook quite a bit, Cindy not so much, But if you're on Facebook and you go on different boards, ours included, you'll see people say there's an oil for everything. And it's true to a degree. There's an oil that can help you with everything. But and we sell essential oils, so I should be telling you that there's an oil for everything and it'll heal everything in your life, but that isn't true. They're good complementary helpers, and they're strong medicine, but they're just one piece of the pie. You know, there's a lot of other things in the pie. There's flower essences, there's eating healthy, there's exercising, there's yoga, which I do not do. I like to lift weights, but there's yoga, there's
Pilates. You like Pilates?
I mean, and then there's the emotional work, you know, that you have to do. I see a therapist 2 hours a week. Bella goes, she's the most healthiest dog in the world. But there's a lot of other work to do. You just can't smell an essential oil and then poof, your life changed.
Well, sometimes just going outside and smelling whatever trees or whatever is, I mean, when we go outside, pinyon trees are all around us, and sometimes the juniper, and just that wave of a wind, when the wind blows and you smell the juniper, or after it rains, you get that sense of, you know, that moisture in the air. Sometimes just even breathing that helps complement the essential oils that you might use to help support you through the rest of the day.
It's true. And so, so you just want to keep in mind that essential oils can assist you on your journey, but like if you have depression and if you make yourself a whole bunch of blends and you diffuse and it's still not working, maybe then you need a little bit more help. I find it interesting though, because this is one of the only industries, you go on one of the Facebook boards and someone writes, my baby is teething, what essential oil can I put on the baby? And then people answer, clove. No, you put nothing on the baby. Go get baby Orajel or brandy. You know, you can do a little brandy on it. Old fashioned. But you don't. Same thing. They write, my baby has a fever. What essential oil can I use? None. Go get baby Tylenol. So I mean, then you could diffuse maybe some lavender for baby, and then baby will feel better. But there's a big world of healing helpers out there, and so you want to include oils in it, but that's not the only one.
Think about your life as a whole, and think about your lifestyle. Think about how much water you're drinking and how much sleep you're getting, how much fresh air you're actually breathing, how much exercise you get,
how much whiskey you're drinking,
and just add essential oils into your life when necessary and when needed to help support you on your emotional journey.
But treat them with respect, and treat them, give them the respect actually that they deserve as very, very, very powerful aids, powerful plant medicine, powerful tree medicine, and if they're used correctly, they can yield fantastic results.
So we're going to make a blend now, Bella.
We're going to make a blend.
We're going to make an inhaler to help support us through emotional trauma.
What do you think, Bella?
Bella does not have any emotional trauma.
She has none.
I'm not sure if you've actually ever made an inhaler before, but if you haven't, you just need a couple of different pieces. These are inhalers, plastic inhalers, or sometimes they're called aroma sticks. And when I make an inhaler, I like to wear a glove because we're actually going to be touching the wick and the essential oils. This way it keeps everything sanitary.
So these are the parts to the inhaler. This is the inhaler and the tube. This is a cap and this is the wick. And this is a cotton wick, and we also have organic cotton wicks.
And a lot of times people will have questions and they'll say, I'm making these inhalers. Do I need to do something special with this wick? They think sometimes that there's something that needs to be peeled off. This wick, this cotton wick, is good to go as it is. You don't need to do anything to it. It will absorb the essential oils exactly as it is. Are we ready to go?
We're ready.
Okay, so after having those three parts for your inhaler, it's good to have a little blending dish, these little flat ones, just to put the essential oils in, and that's what we're going to do now. And so the 4 essential oils that we're going to use today for our anti-anxiety inhaler are bergamot, Fregonia, Rhododendron, and Gemrosa. Now this bergamot, we talked a little bit in one of our other videos about cold-pressed citruses, and bergamot can and is phototoxic, but when it's used in an inhaler, you do not have to worry about any phototoxic issues. So it's totally safe to use. Good to go?
Yep. So bergamot is uplifting. It's one of the good premier oils for depression. And Fregonia is one of the best oils for emotional balance. Rhododendron helps you calm down, and it also helps you get in touch with that inner joy. And Gemrosa is it's a new oil that we just got. It's a cross between Pomarosa and Citronella, and it has just a really nice rosy, calming kind of effect.
It's beautiful. It's going to smell great together. So when you make an inhaler, you're going to use between 15 and 18 drops of essential oils. So we're going to be putting between 15 and 18 drops in our blending dish. And I'm going to start with the bergamot. And I'm going to add 5 drops of bergamot.
Bergamot's pretty because it's a greenish color.
It does. It has a beautiful greenish color. It is a green fruit, by the way. And then I'm going to add the Fregonia. And I'm going to add 4 drops of Fregonia.
Fregonia is a balancing oil because it is almost 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 of 3 different chemical families. So it's almost 1/3 monoterpenols, 1/3 monoterpenes, 1/3 oxides. So energetically, it just gives you a really nice balancing energy. It also smells a little lemony. And it's interesting because Fregonia is sister to tea tree, so you would think that it would kind of have that same aroma as the other paper bark oils, but it doesn't. It's quite unique.
Very unique. Okay, the next one we're going to add is rhododendron. And I'm going to add 5 drops of rhododendron.
And so this rhododendron isn't the rhododendron that we had in our garden when we were kids. Most rhododendrons actually are poisonous if you distill them. So this one is Rhododendron anthopogon, and it comes from Nepal. It's a small white dwarf rhododendron bush.
And the last oil, essential oil, is Gemrosa. And I'm going to add, we did 5 of bergamot, 5 of rhododendron, so that's 10. 4 Fregonia, so I'm going to add 4 more of the Gemrosa.
Let's smell it.
Want to smell?
Well, that's nice. Very nice.
Beautiful.
And so for those of you that are a little bit like me, that you think more is better, or a little bit lean on the side of excessiveness, for you to be able to fill that wick to capacity, it's 25 drops. So I call it STW, soak the wick. So you can really use up to 25 drops.
Okay, so here's the technical term. I'm smushing our wick in the little blending bowl so that it absorbs all the essential oil droplets that I put in here. And then I'm just going to take the wick and put it in the end of the inhaler. And the end cap then goes on the end, clicks in place. So you hear it snap tightly shut. And to use the inhaler, you just simply
I'll show you.
unscrew the inhaler.
So when you use the inhaler, you don't go this way.
No need.
Okay, that's really not going to help you. You take inhaler, and you go this way, and you breathe in deeply. And what happens is that the little essential oil droplets, they go onto the mucosa of the nose, gets absorbed into the bloodstream, and then the other, when you inhale, it affects the brain almost immediately. And if you don't like this, because some people don't like that, sorry, if you don't like this, then you do the same thing and put that on a cotton ball and just open the cotton ball and breathe.
This is your anti-anxiety inhaler. I hope you really love it. And if you have any questions, please come and visit us at Stillpoint online.
Yay, thank you.